Hello, friends. Today is Monday, August the 5th, 2024. It's about 7:30 in the evening. I had to state that this time because when we do these videos, we do have to get them approved by our compliance department. And I'm just not quite sure when I'll get this up for you guys to see. And today was a pretty, interesting day in the market, so I wanted to state that. Also, I just put my little guy down to bed and he sleeps right above me. So if I sound extra close to the microphone, I apologize, but I kind of moved it around a little bit. Anyways, last couple days, interesting days in the market. We had a pretty good down day on Thursday, another good down day on Friday, and then of course today, Monday, we saw the S&P 500 drop by maybe 160 points, and the Dow Jones was down over 1,000 points. And I read something funny online that said, today is a great day to ignore almost everything you hear from almost everyone you know. And I've talked to a number of folks, and you can blame what we've seen in the markets over the last few days, especially today, on any number of things. Of course, front and center, we've got this very unique election that's unfolding for us. We've got the Bank of Japan, who raised rates over the weekend when everyone else is on the verge of cutting rates. And that brings us to here. Our Federal Reserve will likely cut rates. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a rate cut before the September meeting. And a lot of that is based on a soft jobs number we saw last week. You've got Iran, Israel, Hamas, hurricane in Florida, any number of things you could point the finger at and say, oh, that's the reason why we saw, the move we saw over the last few days. But if you follow our videos and you've watched previous videos, hopefully the action the last few days hasn't taken you by surprise too much, because we've always been of the opinion that in an election year and the months leading up to it, specifically August, September, October, tend to be pretty volatile. And again, the markets don't care what the outcome of the election is. It's the uncertainty surrounding it. And this election is, panning out to be quite uncertain. It's very unique. We've got a lot of what ifs going on and a lot of firsts. So I think a lot of that volatility is something that we've expected and we would continue to expect for the next few months. And when we say volatility, we mean big up days and, of course, big down days. But I wanted to put those into perspective a little bit. 1,000 points is nothing to scoff at in the Dow, or 160 points on the S&P, but it's not that big of a deal. When Lance and I look at the markets, we try to ignore the price and focus more on the percentage. And the reason behind that is the percentage move is relative, and that's what matters most to us. So think, if you've got $100,000, a 1% move is $1,000. If you've got, $10,000, a 1% move is $100. Okay. So the bigger the number, the bigger the moves we see, but it's percentage that we care about most. And what we saw today was a little over a 2% move down in the markets. And that's not that uncommon. So kind of this chart here on the right, number of large down days, we can see here that through 2024 so far, we've only had 2% down days this year, which is pretty tame. And you can go back and look and say, okay, last year we had 1, 2022 we had 15, 2021 we had 5, 2020 we had 9, and then in this column here is 3% or greater down days. And we've had none of those this year. We had none last year, but in previous years, we've had quite a few of them. Think back to COVID days when the market was all over the place. So in percentage terms, what we saw today, really not that big of a deal. Nothing that concerns us at this point. Now, obviously, we've got some runway left in the year, and that can change. The percentage move is what matters most to us, and we're seeing nothing out of the ordinary. On top of that, here on the left, we're looking at what was the max drawdown or biggest correction or pullback that we've seen in the market in any given year? So far this year, from its peak to where we're at right now, the S&P 500 is down 8.5%. That's par for the course. The average pullback that we see in any given year is roughly 12 to 13%. You can see last year we saw a 10% pullback. 2022, we saw a 25% pullback. The list goes on, but it tends to average over time about 12, 13% pullback in any given year. Where we're at today, 8.5%. Again, nothing that we're too concerned about. And then in the very right side of this left chart shows, okay, what did the year end up doing? How did the year close? And even having, a 10% pullback last year in 2023, markets were still up over 25%. This year, despite being down 8.5%, the market so far for the year is still up almost 10%. And you can kind of go back and take a peek at this and say, hey, even though during the middle of the year, we tend to see big volatile swings at some point, over time, we tend to close the years mostly positive. Obviously, we're halfway through this year. We don't know how the year is going to finish out, but we're still pretty optimistic and like what we're seeing. The sky is not falling, but if you feel like calling, please, by all means, give us a buzz. We're here to help, and we can talk about your situation. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you guys are well, and we'll see you soon.